All right, let's talk about the vapor canopy, right? So the vapor canopy is the idea that in our past, there was a time, and I mean, it originally started this way, where there were massive, massive tall trees that would provide a shielding almost and create a separate biome to the layer underneath it, kind of like a rainforest. Like a rainforest has such tight branching of the trees above that it creates a different biome beneath, and that's where pretty much almost all the life exists, is right there in that biome, and it grows very, very well, right? Think Garden of Eden, right? Everything grew really, really well. And whenever you create a biome underneath like this, these massive trees, well, you get a lot of excess gases, and one of them could possibly be maybe excess oxygen. And with excess oxygen, just for one, not even going to get into excess radiation, you have bigger things. Things grow larger. Insects, especially, grow much, much larger, and it would be a lot more plausible to think that that would be a time when giants were very common. Giant everything. Everything was much larger because of the vapor canopy. Think of, as well as Journey to the Center of the Earth, right? And they're going down, deep down. They encounter very, very large insects. And what you'd find deeper down would be more supply of gases. And therefore, you have larger things. So the same thing in with the vapor canopy, and the beings that live beneath it would be much larger because they'd have all these gases and this biome that's created to help them grow larger and faster and have access to so much plentiful food. And when you think of giant trees, they're like, oh, where are they? Well, look at, they have a couple plateaus, giant plateaus, clean cut, and one off the top of my head would be Devil's Tower, right? A very massive would be, if it was a small version, a fractalized version of that would be a stump, what we would consider a stump. It looks exactly like one, and it's cleanly cut right off the top. That doesn't happen, and right, it's a mountain. Well, things petrify, and wood, among other things, can turn to stone. So therefore you have mountains. I'm not saying every mountain is a tree, but it's safe to say that a lot would be. And everything likes to live in trees. I mean, look at Lord of the Rings. The elves, they live in giant trees. Cypress trees are very interesting as well. They are hollow on the inside. Perfect place to dwell. Dwarves love to live in mountains, which, as I just said before, petrified trees. So they also like being in trees. You got the Avatar, blue people Avatar. They live in a giant cypress tree. There's always this truth in fiction, and the Lord of the Rings, I mean, that really is just a documentary. Let's be honest here. And they're showing, I mean, beings would live in these giant trees or mountains, whatever version of the tree. There were so many of these giant trees. We even have video footage of the early 1900s where they're getting rid of the last of the large trees, the lumber companies. And if you go really into the weeds of stuff, where these giant quarries were, they're done, used up. These were just spots where there were a massive forest where these trees and probably other beings around, whether it be animals and humans, I mean the same thing, have petrified, and they've turned to different jewels that we deem as precious. Those were quarries. That's where quarries actually come from. So everything really comes from the tree, the thing we don't really give much respect. But the vapor canopy makes a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense for the giant stuff as well, the giant beings, and then when you have the remnants of like Devil's Mountain and other massive mountain-like structures that are cleanly cut off the top, it definitely makes you wonder, what happened, and how were they cut down? why were they cut down? It's a lot of questions there, but I'll just leave it at that.